Tonight on CTV3 News, a tragic fire claims life of 4-year-old Kira Bennett in the Old Capital. Prime Minister John Briceño highlights Belize's progress and the future growth ahead of 44th independence anniversary. Belize businessman Andrew Munnings released from prison after court orders settlement of tax disputes as Prime Minister calls for tax regime reforms. And Guatemala responds to Belize's incursion concerns. These are some of the stories we have for you tonight in our newscast for Tuesday, September 16th, 2025.
Celebrate Belize's 44th independence anniversary with us. Join us this September as Belize shines brighter than ever. Be part of the excitement and showcase your business to thousands of viewers during our live coverage of these spectacular events. September 19th, Children's Rally. September 13th, Carousel Carnival. September 20, Flag Raising Ceremony. And September 21st, the Citizens Parade.
Everybody jump and wave. Show me 1,000 and just show me 1,000 and
Maximize your visibility. All events will be broadcast live on Channel 53 of Centaur Cable Network, available on the Express Plus app and streamed across our popular social media platforms, including CTV3 News, Fiesta FM Radio, and Despierta Belize. Get more value for your advertising dollar, reach a wider audience, and be part of Belize's most celebrated month. Contact us today at 670-9177 for more information. Get ready, Belize! September is here and we're turning up the celebration. Belize is turning 44 and we're bringing the party straight to you with a lineup of unforgettable events that you simply can't miss. September 13th, Carousel Carnival. September 19th, Children's Rally. September 20, Flag Raising Ceremony. And September 21st, the Citizens Parade. We're bringing it all to you live. No matter where you are, catch every moment on Channel 53 of Centaur Cable Network, the Express Plus app, and across all our social media pages, CTV3 News, Fiesta FM Radio, and Despierta Belize. No need to go anywhere. Just sit back, relax, and celebrate Belize's 44th birthday with us.
That announcement. It is with profound sadness that we announce the passing of our beloved mother, wife, daughter, sister, aunt, and friend, Yolanda Francisca Reyes Ni Garcia, fondly known as Yoli, who departed this life on Sunday, September 14th, 2025. Yoli was a cherished member of our family and community, remembered for her kindness, generosity, and unwavering spirit. She is predeceased by her father, Eloy Garcia Sr., and sister, Celia Blanco. She is survived by her husband, Ernesto Ismael Reyes, and a son, Ernesto Arkel Reyes, mother, Susana Garcia, sisters, Adelita Chel, Elisa Cuello, Susana Hernandez, and brothers, Luis and Eloy Garcia. Yoli was also loved by many brothers-in-law, sisters-in-law, nephews, and nieces. She will be deeply missed by her extended family, friends, and all who had the privilege of knowing her. We invite you to join us in celebrating Yoli's life and the legacy at the upcoming memorial service to be announced later. During this difficult time, we ask for your thoughts and prayers for the family. May Yolanda Francisca Reyes Ni Garcia's soul rest in eternal peace.
Good evening with your news also simulcast on Fiesta FM 106.7. I am Joanna Rodriguez. Prime Minister Honorable John Briceño today delivered his State of the Nation address ahead of Belize's 44th Independence Day celebrations, reflecting on the country's progress and outlining his government's plans for continued growth. Celebrating Belize's progress in just under 50 years of independence, the Prime Minister highlighted the nation's many accomplishments and its readiness for further growth. He emphasized notable improvements since assuming office in 2020, mentioning that the economy has experienced what he called a substantial shift. That progress, he added, has been confirmed by the International Monetary Fund, which in its third consecutive positive review reported that Belize's economy expanded by 8.1% in 2024. Employment levels are also at historic heights, with 95% of Belizeans currently employed.
Consider how tall we stand today, when just 5 years ago, battered by misgovernance and pandemic, both our economy and our dollar were on the precipice of collapse. So high have we soared that for the third year running, the IMF's report card could hardly have been more positive. 2024 growth stood at 8.1%, with the first half of the year projected for further expansion. For the first time in living memory, employment has surged to over 95%, with widespread reports of worker shortages in the private sector. Employers looking for workers and not workers looking for jobs. How unusual is that? Hourly wage earners can soon expect another raise to $6 for the minimum wage from an administration that made good in our first term on the $5 per hour pledge. When that $6 per hour floor is established, this government would be the first ever to almost double the guaranteed income of those whose wages are paid at hourly wages.
The Prime Minister reaffirmed his government's commitment to Plan Belize, announcing that the national minimum wage will soon rise to $6 an hour, the second increase under his leadership. Economic growth, he said, is also reflected in new agreements with unions, which will see public officers, teachers, and security forces benefit from over $100 million in additional wages.
There are more than 15,000 public officers, teachers, and security personnel who, as a consequence of government's recent negotiations with the various unions, stand to gain over $100 million in additional wages. When the phased salary increase are fully implemented, and including increments through to 2027, the additional wages will value $112.4 million annually, or $750 per year on average for each of the public officers, teachers, and security personnel. Had the almost miraculous repair and reconstruction of the public finances not been achieved by this administration post-2020, clearly this size of a wage increase would have been impossible. Today, not only is the Belize dollar backed by solid rock reserves and a value peg on moves since 1949, but we have welcomed in the last few weeks a currency note refreshed with our national heroes, George Price and Philip Goulston, now adoring the cash we exchange daily. National heroes, national symbols, and national attractions. The new banknotes, rolled out with notable efficiency, are but one additional symbol of Belize's strength and Belize's independence.
As Belize prepares to mark its 44th independence anniversary on September 21st, the Prime Minister urged citizens to take pride in the country's progress and to remain committed to building a stronger future together. Shifting focus from the country's economic outlook to its backbone of productivity, the Prime Minister highlighted that while Belize's agriculture sector has registered significant growth in recent years, his government is also working to safeguard industries currently under serious threat. Among the most pressing challenges is the sugar industry, which saw production severely affected this crop season by the spread of Fusarium disease. Prime Minister John Briceño assured Belizeans that his administration is responding decisively, having already secured close to $20 million in assistance to support rehabilitation efforts. Similarly, he reaffirmed his government's commitment to protecting the cattle industry from the devastating impacts of screwworm infestations. Belize, he noted, is collaborating with regional allies to ensure that cattle farmers weather the crisis and position the industry for recovery.
In agriculture, for example, the Fusarium disease cut this last sugarcane season's production by 15.47% and sugar by 23.9%, while financial revenues is estimated to fall between 35 to 40%. The next crop is expected to fall by another 15 to 20% in sugarcane production. Yet, the farmers, the millers, and government are undeterred. The sugarcane industry, so vital to the North, will defeat Fusarium with a collaborative plan that is well underway. $500,000 was invested in a successful experimental project, and $2.5 million was recently approved by Cabinet to treat cane fields. Already, the Office of the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Economic Transformation has raised another $7 million from CRESAP, $1.5 million from GCF through the 5 Cs, and $7 million from DFC, which has rehabilitated over 6,000 acres of cane fields and an ongoing rehabilitation of another 35,000 acres. And at the recent investment summit on Ambergris Caye, government signed an MOU that will expand sugar refining and broaden Belize's sugar exports to CARICOM and beyond. And we will defeat Fusarium, so will our livestock industry survive the challenge from the New World screwworm. Again, the Ministry of Agriculture, in close partnership with the private sector, has been tireless in its efforts to educate ranchers and to organize a response consonant with our regional allies.
Despite these hurdles, Prime Minister Briceño emphasized that agriculture in Belize is not just surviving but expanding. Through the Ministry of Agriculture, strategic investments are being poured into emerging industries, innovation, and value-adding initiatives that increase both productivity and profitability for farmers.
Coconuts, that burgeoning new sector, paints the picture of Belizean resilience. Today, 18,000 acres of coconuts are planted. Just over 22 containers of coconut water and just over 700,000 nuts have been exported up to the end of July. The export of nuts and coconut water is expected to generate an estimated $4 million in 2025, when just a few years ago, this commodity was confined to domestic consumption. And in 2026, revenues from coconut is expected to surge to between $8 and $10 million as recently planted fields come into production and the industry begins to export green nuts to Mexico. Because of the policies and support mechanisms for industry that transcends the halls of the Ministry of Agriculture and the government of Belize, over $170 million in strategic investments have occurred in agriculture value-adding within the last 3 years. To highlight a few: 1, coconut and juice processing. A minimum of $60 million have been invested in new plant construction for fruit and other juice processing, fruit pulp processing, soursop and pineapple processing, coconut water and coconut oil processing, and for preparing fresh coconut for export. 2, corn and wheat flour and corn chips, over $50 million, with 2 new flour mills coming into operation, a cornmeal plant, a ramen processing plant, and the Boeing corn chips snack plant. 3, soybean meal, oil, and animal feed. $32 million have been invested in soy meal and oil refinery. 4, poultry. $23.2 million in plant expansion, upgrades and modernization, and equipment for a new product line such as chicken ham, chicken sausages, bologna, and other value-added products. 5, the dairy sector. $6.8 million in UHT milk processing and dairy plant processing and storage expansions. And 6, chocolate manufacturing. Close to $5 million is being invested.
A mother and father are tonight mourning the heartbreaking loss of their 4-year-old daughter who perished in a house fire in the early hours of Tuesday in the old capital. According to authorities, the blaze erupted around 4:30 a.m. after a neighbor noticed smoke billowing from the residence and alerted 28-year-old Joelle Guerra, the child's mother. Police reports indicate that Guerra was able to escape the burning home, but her young daughter, Kira Bennett, who was believed to be sleeping beside her, remained trapped inside. Efforts by Guerra and a relative to enter the inferno and rescue Kira were unsuccessful as the flames rapidly engulfed the building. Crime scene investigators later recovered the burned remains of the child from the wreckage. Kira's father, Kiron Bennett, was at the Corozal commercial free zone when he got the devastating call informing him that his daughter was trapped inside the inferno.
We had about 4 neighbors who were trying to get inside of the place, but due to our structure of our home, it's a very old structure, like 20 years or 25 years. So I guess with the wind and everything, the flame was blazed very fast, and then my daughter was trapped inside. But my girlfriend, she ran downstairs to try to get assistance to try to find her within the thick smoke because it was a lot of black smoke, So she received, 3-degree burns on her legs, on her calves, on her stomach, on her neck. We tried to save her. My dad, he received burns also, but it was just minor burns, So he tried to climb the back here, right in the corner there, to try to get upstairs to the window where she heard my daughter was screaming, right? And he tried his best. Him. He just quickly went inside, and I guess my baby was under the bed, and the burns, I guess she already got choked out by the smoke, and that was the result,
Kira, who had recently begun attending St. Martin's preschool this September, is now mourned by her family and community. The Ministry of Public Service, Governance and Disaster Risk Management has extended condolences to the family of the 4-year-old.
They said that
well-known Belize City businessman Andrew Munnings, proprietor of Munnings Funeral Service, spent last night at the Belize Central Prison after failing to comply with a payment plan for tax arrears totaling $172,000. Munnings had reportedly been disputed the assessment of his outstanding balance with the Belize Tax Service, but in the interim was required to make monthly payments of $2,000. Key allegedly fell behind, and after a court appearance, a committal decision was issued ordering his detention unless a portion of the arrears was paid immediately. The arrest sparked strong reactions on social media, with many Belizeans criticizing the decision. Since Monday, efforts have been underway to raise funds to secure his release, and by late this evening, he exited the Belize City Magistrates Court, leaving with a renewed opportunity to resolve his financial issues and get his enterprise back on track. The court issued a new directive requiring Munnings to immediately settle a balance of $2,000. Additionally, the court reaffirmed his obligation to pay half of the outstanding amount by October 16, 2025. Addressing the matter, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Honorable John Briceño, said that while he sympathizes with Munnings as a young entrepreneur, the obligation to pay taxes applies to all Belizeans.
I don't know all the details. When I visited the BTS, the office, probably about 2 months ago, and we discussed several issues, and one of them was their frustration with Mr. Munnings, that they're saying that Mr. Munnings refused to pay his taxes, and all citizens are required to pay their taxes. I was unaware that he was arrested yesterday. It was only until last night when I was on my way and I started reading in cabinet where everybody was outraged about that. So that is something that we have to take a look at, and we have to walk that very, very carefully, because if we were to tell entrepreneurs, okay, don't pay your taxes, go home, then many others are going to do the same. Belizeans need to pay their taxes, and Mr. Munnings have been refusing to do so. He may have a good argument as to why he has not done so far, but from what I've known, what have been given to me, is that this was sanctioned not by BTS but by the courts, because he refused to meet up to a court order. I'm told that in May he was to start to pay $500 a week. He made 2 payments and then he has stopped. And despite that he's been asked repeatedly to pay, he refuses to pay. If Mr. Munnings was serious about paying, I am sure he could have gone to BTS and speak to them and say, listen, I can't afford 500, but this is what I could afford, and we've done it. Or they could have come to us. I am available to everybody. He could have sent me a message, and I would do whatever I can. But I need to quickly add, I do not interfere in the affairs of the Belize Tax Service. The Belize Tax Service is supposed to be independent, and they need to be able to serve all Belizeans equally.
And while the matter was decided on by the court, PM Briceño says more needs to be done to rectify age-old penalties that are tied to the tax regime in our country.
That, we need to ensure that we can support our young entrepreneurs. And that is one thing, that's one of the issues that the Minister of State with Minister Koya have been discussing with him for some time now, that I think these laws were passed before our time. But in an effort to ensure that people pay their taxes, the penalties are onerous. I guess the framers back then felt that if we do it onerous, people won't pay their taxes. But I think it's having the adverse effect that once those onerous penalties are being instilled on these small entrepreneurs, many are saying, you know what, man, I can't pay this, so might as well I just give up. And we can't do that. We need to change that. And so we've been discussing, and pretty soon I think we'll have to go to cabinet to be able to see how we could change those onerous penalties.
As part of his government's commitment to work with small and medium-sized entrepreneurs, PM Briceño says the situation is being closely looked at to ensure a swift resolution.
Exist on anything. I'm not saying that the BTS is without fault. It could be not. And that's left to be seen, but I know that we've gone to court and the court made a judgment. I think even the officials at BTS had asked for more leniency, and I am told that the magistrate said no, they have been giving them too much leniency, and that was a decision by the courts, not by BTS, certainly not by the government, certainly not by us at the ministry, nor the cabinet. We would not have allowed a citizen to have been locked up. Because especially a small entrepreneur. Remember, there was an Indian businessman that was sent to jail. And the minute he got in jail, he already paid $200,000. Remember that? So this is not the first time it has happened. But It's not something, it's not a road that we want to go to. We need to encourage especially our small entrepreneurs. The big businesses, I believe that they need to be audited regularly and they need to pay what they owe.
The media today also questioned the PM about the situation with his sister, Vanessa Briceño, who recently faced a similar situation with the tax service.
The very same thing. Let me start off. I never interfered with Vanessa Briceño's case. I never called anyone. I never asked anybody to be able to interfere. She went in there, she negotiated, and she paid her tax. But if you want details, you need to speak with Vanessa. I'm not going to go in between. That's her and BTS.
In response to public debate over the detention of businessman Andrew Munnings, director of the Belize Tax Service BTS, Michelle Longsworth, has clarified that his arrest followed a lengthy process in which the department sought to reach a workable payment arrangement. Longsworth explained that BTS made repeated efforts to assist Munnings in settling his arrears of $172,000, including establishing a prepayment plan. However, she noted that his failure to comply with the agreed terms ultimately led to the court's decision to issue a committal order.
Despite repeated opportunities to comply, the taxpayer has defaulted on both filing and payment obligations. So in keeping with the law, we followed each step of enforcement actions. This ensures fairness to the many taxpayers who do comply even under difficult circumstances. BTSD views court enforcement as a measure of last resort, used only after multiple opportunities for cooperation have been provided. On February 25, 2025, the Magistrate Court ordered Mr. Munnings to make monthly payments of $2,000 towards his judgment debt. While some partial payments were made, he failed to comply with the court order. The court made it clear that failure to meet these obligations would result in committal to jail. After further defaults, a committal warrant was issued yesterday, a lawful consequence of ignoring a binding court order. Every taxpayer, whether large or small, goes through the same structured process: registration, filing, payment, and if necessary, enforcement. This case did not reach the stage of committal overnight. The business began operating in 2020, but was not registered for tax purposes until 2023, after Belize Tax Services contacted him. Despite this late registration, the taxpayer did not file or pay as required. A taxpayer service officer made several attempts to provide taxpayer education, but these were refused by the taxpayer. Audits and assessments were carried out in accordance with the law, and the taxpayer was given an opportunity to seek a review, but he did not act. Multiple payment arrangements were offered, including the waiver of penalty and interest. Additional time was granted before enforcement. Despite these accommodations, the taxpayer repeatedly failed to comply with both tax obligation and the binding court order.
The director emphasized that while the department is willing to work with taxpayers facing difficulties, compliance remains a legal obligation.
Presently, we're doing our best. I'm looking at the case to see what it is. I have to reach out to the magistrate court, because at the end of the day, if Mr. Munnings makes a commitment now to continue on with his payments on a regular basis, we, the tax department, are willing to accept that. So that is something we have to put before the court. I believe our legal team has already prepared such a submission for the magistrate, and we will be submitting that. So if he comes forward and pays, we will see what he can offer to pay now. We are willing to accept that, but with a commitment that he will stick to his monthly payment of 2,000, I believe, a month that the court has ordered. I am saying here, I am willing to keep those penalty and interest waived once Mr. Munnings is willing to stick to the payment agreement to pay his core tax type. That's all we're asking. Pay your core tax type, and the department is willing to waive the penalty and interest that keeps occurring every single month.
And so you all are going to court with that today?
Yes.
Okay.
Once he comes in and makes a or his attorney comes in and makes a commitment to pay an amount right now, we will make that submission for him to be released today.
It is noted that Andrew Munnings walked out of the Belize City Magistrates Court just after 5 o'clock this evening after reaching an agreement with the BTS. Coming up next, CARICOM condemns Guatemalan incursion into Belize, reaffirms support for sovereignty amid rising tensions. Stay tuned.
Celebrate Belize's 44th independence anniversary with us. Join us this September as Belize shines brighter than ever. Be part of the excitement and showcase your business to thousands of viewers during our live coverage of these spectacular events.
September 19th,
Children's Rally. September 13th, Carousel Carnival. September 20, Flag Raising Ceremony. And September 21st, the Citizens Parade.
Everybody jump and wave. Show me 1,000 and just show me 1,000 and
Maximize your visibility. All events will be broadcast live on Channel 53 of Centaur Cable Network, available on the Express Plus app and streamed across our popular social media platforms, including CTV3 News, Fiesta FM Radio, and Despierta Belize. Get more value for your advertising dollar, reach a wider audience, and be part of Belize's most celebrated month. Contact us today at 670-9177 for more information. Get ready, Belize! September is here and we're turning up the celebration. Belize is turning 44 and we're bringing the party straight to you with a lineup of unforgettable events that you simply can't miss. September 13th, Carousel Carnival.
September 19th,
Children's Rally. September 20, Flag Raising Ceremony. And September 21st, the Citizens Parade. We're bringing it all to you live. No matter where you are, catch every moment on Channel 53 of Centaur Cable Network, the Express Plus app, and across all our social media pages, CTV3 News, Fiesta FM Radio, and Despierta Belize. No need to go anywhere. Just sit back, relax, and celebrate Belize's 44th birthday with us.
Over the weekend, the Belize Territorial Volunteers BTV undertook a significant and symbolic journey, embarking from Punta Gorda and making their way to the Sarstoon River. Their mission was clear: to plant the Belizean flag on Sarstoon Island, reaffirming Belize's sovereignty over the territory. This act was especially notable given the tense backdrop of recent events at the river. The timing of this trip was especially significant because only 3 days earlier, on September 10th, Guatemalan armed forces had hoisted their flag on Sarstoon Island, and on September 12th, another military clash occurred when the Guatemalan Navy forcibly asserted their claim of sovereignty over the Sarstoon. But while Guatemala claims sovereignty over the territory, Belize asserts its ownership based on historical and legal foundations, and the recent Guatemalan incursion has only intensified diplomatic friction, with Belize asserting its right through peaceful means while also demonstrating resilience, says Prime Minister John Briceño and Minister of Foreign Affairs Honorable Francis Fonseca.
Said it from the beginning that we remain steadfast in the protection of our territory. We are not going to cede a single inch. And again, I continue to to praise the bravery of the BDF, that despite they've been outnumbered not only in personnel, but even equipment and boats, they've stood their ground, and I'm very, very proud of them.
I want to place on record, our absolute confidence in the Belize Defense Force or security forces. I think we, as a nation, we need to be very proud of them. We need to commend them for not only their courage, but their calm and their professionalism. So I want to say that first of all. Secondly, as I have stated before, when it comes to Guatemala, the people of Belize have given the government a mandate. This was done in 2019. We had a referendum. The people of this country gave the government of Belize a mandate to pursue a peaceful, definitive resolution of this matter. So that is the path that Belize is on, a peaceful resolution of this matter. Now that doesn't mean that while we pursue that peaceful resolution that we don't have to be vigilant in terms of protecting our territorial integrity and our national sovereignty. We always have to do that. And in fact, that is priority number one for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the government of Belize. So we certainly have condemned what took place over the past few days, separate incidents, including the BTV, the placing of the flag illegally on the Sarstoon. We have condemned that. We have engaged with not only bilaterally with Guatemala, but of course we have engaged with our friends of Belize, with all of our diplomatic partners. We are working with them to address this issue in a structured way. So, it's a very, very important issue. We are concerned about the rising tensions and the aggression of the military, the Guatemalan armed forces. But we also recognize what is happening.
While Belize continues to seek diplomatic resolutions, anyone visiting the Sarsoon should do so responsibly, says PM Briceño and Minister Fonseca.
Territorial group, we know what has been their position all along, and I applaud them, but at the same time, I urge them to be careful. Civilians are going in front of soldiers, and anything can happen. And thank God, so far nothing has happened. So they don't need to go there to say that it belongs to us. It belongs to us, and we've been saying it over and over. Everybody have a right to go, but you need to be cautious at this time of when tensions are so high.
As long as we do it in a responsible way, working along, making sure that the BDF, the Coast Guard are aware of what we're doing. I think, we're not discouraging people from going there, but we want them to be aware of the environment that we're operating in currently. And we want them to communicate with the Belize military forces, because of course we don't want anything to happen. We don't want any accidents. We don't want any of our citizens to be hurt.
The Caribbean Community CARICOM has voiced serious concerns following a series of provocative military actions by Guatemala within Belizean borders earlier this month. Between September 10th and 13th, 2025, elements of the Guatemalan Armed Forces, the GAF, reportedly crossed into Belizean territory, escalating tensions in the Sarstoon. Separate videos show the GAF personnel entering the Sarstoon River, an area long disputed between the two nations, and engage in a series of provocative acts. These included raising the Guatemalan flag on land recognized internationally as Belizean, attempting to collide with a Belizean military vessel, and hindering local navigation along the river. In response, CARICOM issued a statement condemning the incursion, describing the actions as a blatant violation of Belize's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The regional bloc reaffirmed its unwavering support for Belize, emphasizing the importance of respecting borders and resolving disputes through peaceful means and adherence to international law. Today, Prime Minister John Briceño and Minister of Foreign Affairs Francis Fonseca thanked CARICOM and other organizations for standing up for Belize.
Of course, I know this statement, and we support it 100%. CARICOM has been one of our strongest supporters, and they continue to support us, and we are very grateful for them to take on such a strong statement.
We're very happy that other organizations like CARICOM have come out and issued very strong statements in support of Belize. COPAL has done so as well. So we're going to continue to pursue, as I said, a diplomatic approach to this, a peaceful resolution of this matter, while at the same time standing up very strongly in protection of Belize's territorial sovereignty, our territorial integrity, and our national sovereignty.
The recent incidents have reignited long-standing tensions over border demarcation and sovereignty issues in Central America. Belize has consistently maintained its stance that its borders are recognized internationally and condemned any unilateral military actions that threaten regional stability. CARICOM's call underscores the broader regional commitment to maintaining peace and stability in the Caribbean basin. As diplomatic efforts continue, the international community watches closely, urging both Belize and Guatemala to seek dialogue and a peaceful resolution to their differences, avoiding further escalation that could destabilize the region. And in a formal reaction to recent events along the Sarstoon River, Guatemala has issued a statement addressing Belize's allegations and asserting its stance on the territorial dispute. As mentioned over the weekend, the Belize Territorial Volunteers, BTV, made a journey from Punta Gorda to the Sarstoon River, where they successfully planted the Belizean flag on Sarstoon Island. The action followed closely on the heels of Guatemalan military personnel raising their own flag at the same location on September 10th. Will Mejia, founder of the BTV, recounted that the Belize Coast Guard and Belize Defense Force, BDF, provided escort for the group, ensuring safe passage despite attempts by Guatemalan armed forces to block their access. In response, the government of Belize formally protested the incident at the highest diplomatic levels, accusing Guatemala of infringing on Belize's sovereignty. On Tuesday, Guatemala's Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a statement expressing deep regret over what it described as unauthorized incursions into its territory. The statement alleged that units of the Belize Defense Force entered Guatemalan territory via the Sarstoon River on September 10th, 12th, and 13th without permission. These unauthorized crossings pose significant risks to Guatemalan civilians residing along or traveling through the river and its surrounding areas, which is unacceptable, the statement emphasized. Guatemala also noted that the incidents occurred just days before its Independence Day celebrations, adding a layer of sensitivity to the situation. Guatemalan authorities clarified that their military acted within constitutional bounds to safeguard sovereignty, emphasizing that their response aimed to prevent escalation and avoid confrontation. The statement highlighted that the Guatemalan military contained what it termed provocations through diplomatic dialogue rather than force, underscoring their professionalism and commitment to maintaining peace. Furthermore, Guatemala reaffirmed its claim that Sarstoon Island is part of its sovereign territory, dismissing Belize's assertions of ownership. The Guatemalan government accused Belize of overstating the situation in international forums in an effort to undermine its position and destabilize regional relations. As part of Plan Belize 2.0, PM Briceño, during his State of the Nation address today, also reaffirmed his government's commitment to renewable energy, announcing bold strides towards boosting clean power generation. By year's end, Belize would have signed 2 different projects to produce more than 80 megawatts of solar energy, a milestone the Prime Minister says will transform the country's energy landscape. He stressed that this shift to solar power is not only about reducing reliance on imported energy, but also about securing a sustainable future for Belizeans, lowering energy costs, and positioning the nation as a regional leader in green energy.
Plan Belize 2.0 is firing on all cylinders so that trust requires power. It requires electricity to bolster production and keep up with demand. A new agreement was signed just a few weeks ago for the generation of 15 megawatts of solar power. By the end of this year, we expect to sign 4 more agreements totaling an additional 80 megawatts of solar power. This is in fulfillment of our pledge to enhance clean power generation and buttress domestic power production. These new power plants, these new solar plants projects will come online by the end of 2026 and represent an investment of over $140 million.
A highlight of the Prime Minister's State of the Nation address this morning focused on tourism, a sector which the PM says continues to show positive growth despite global challenges. He noted that by the end of this year, Belize will welcome new international air services designed to strengthen the country's expanding tourism landscape. Locally, the sector is also blooming, with more than 600 additional hotel rooms coming online in major destinations across the country.
Despite the challenges to global tourism and the unceasing waves of sargassum blighting our coastline, the overnight and cruise tourism sectors remain sturdy. Through July, 364,418 overnight visitors arrived to our shores, a 1.3% increase compared to the same period last year. This was complemented by 595,682 cruise passengers, a 5.3% increase. The airline routes linking Belize to the world are already extensive and will be further expanded by adding new service on Air Canada from Montreal, which provide that same European connection we have long sought, and Spirit out of Fort Lauderdale, which will add a new low-cost option later this year. Hotel room expansion continues apace in all major destinations, and especially in Ambergris Key and on the Placencia Peninsula. An estimated 621 new quality rooms come online this year. And improvements at the PGIA are progressing, including to the terminal building, the apron, and the parking facilities. The prospect of a link to the Tren Maya routes and connectivity between the Mexican Maya Riviera and North Ambergris carry untold potential if undertaken in a manner consistent with high environmental standards. Of course, securing our cities, towns, villages, and our borders is crucial to instilling confidence in citizens, visitors, and investors alike.
Underscoring that tourism growth depends on safety and stability, the Prime Minister highlighted notable gains in public scrutiny. Major crimes are down by 3% compared to last year, while the national murder rate has dropped by 20%. These results, he said, stem from targeted investments in training and resources for security personnel.
Result-specific spending has been ongoing for personnel training and equipment. The security forces, and especially the police department, continues to push back against domestic and transnational crime with gathering success. Major crimes have fallen by 3% this year, and murders are down by 20% through the end of August compared to last year. With regard to this recent controversy surrounding citizen Joseph Budna and his alleged abduction and reappearance in Guatemalan custody. I wish to reiterate that this government did not and would never sanction an extrajudicial extradition of any Belizean, no matter their station. The law of the land applies to every citizen alike, without prejudice. Wherever the police investigation leads into that matter, justice will be applied and justice will prevail.
On the legislative side, Prime Minister Briceño addressed the proposed 13th Amendment, emphasizing that the measure is not a frivolous exercise, but one that requires careful and extensive consultation. While acknowledging ongoing debates, he maintained that his government remains resolute in tackling gang violence and strengthening public safety.
The proposed 13th constitutional amendment has also generated vibrant debate in the recent months. Let me underscore what I and colleague ministers have explained. Any change to the Constitution is weighty, not a frivolous exercise. That's why the various consultations have been extensive. But I underscore as well that our pledge to employ every lawful strategy and tactic to suppress gang violence will be relentless. So long as innocent, law-abiding citizens fear for their safety and the safety of their children, we will not be swayed by naysayers who conjure imaginary victims of state overreach, while the real crime victims of the criminals are overlooked.
And there is more news after the break. Stay tuned.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
That announcement. It is with profound sadness that we announce the passing of our beloved mother, wife, daughter, sister, aunt, and friend, Yolanda Francisca Reyes Ni Garcia, fondly known as Yoli, who departed this life on Sunday, September 14, 2025. Yoli was a cherished member of our family and community, remembered for her kindness, generosity, and unwavering spirit. She is predeceased by her father, Eloy Garcia Sr., and sister, Celia Blanco. She is survived by her husband, Ernesto Ismael Reyes, and a son, Ernesto Arkel Reyes, mother, Susana Garcia, sisters, Adelita Chel, Elisa Cuello, Susana Hernandez, and brothers, Luis and Eloy Garcia. Yoli was also loved by many brothers-in-law, sisters-in-law, nephews, and nieces. She will be deeply missed by her extended family, friends, and all who had the privilege of knowing her. We invite you to join us in celebrating Yoli's life and the legacy at the upcoming memorial service to be announced later. During this difficult time, we ask for your thoughts and prayers for the family. May Yolanda Francisca Reyes Ni Garcia's soul rest in eternal peace.
And when we first began,
As Belize gears up to celebrate 44 years of independence, today it welcomed 44 new citizens who were formally granted Belizean citizenship this morning during a naturalization ceremony at the University of Belize Gymnasium. As part of the proceedings, the new citizens pledge allegiance to Belize, committing to respect its constitution, safeguarding its sovereignty, and contribute to the nation's progress and cultural heritage. Prime Minister John Briceño described the occasion as a meaningful step in Belize's growth, especially as the young nation continues to navigate global challenges just 44 years after independence.
In a great measure, these 4 decades and 4 years of ascendant nationhood was captured by today's citizenship ceremony. 44 new Belizeans, may I say 44 and a half or 45? You miscount Cabsec. These new Belizeans, born in distant lands, diverse in ethnicity and culture, but freely and enthusiastically choosing to pledge loyalty and life to this, our glittering jewel. To be sure, the nation has traversed peaks and valleys since its birth in 1981, but never have our people veered away from those immortal values that befit a progressive society. Belizeans continuously embrace participatory democracy, free speech, opportunity based on merit, the right to a dignified living, and believe in the goodness of our Creator.
The ceremony concluded with the signing of the national anthem and the presentation of citizenship certificates, marking the beginning of a new chapter for the 44 proud Belizeans. Barbados, Belize, Dominica, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines are preparing to implement unrestricted movement for their citizens beginning October 1st, 2025. This initiative is part of a broader effort by the Caribbean community, CARICOM, to deepen regional integration. In a statement issued Monday, CARICOM clarified that with this new arrangement, nationals of these 4 countries will have the right to enter, exit, and re-enter each other's territories, as well as to live, work, and stay indefinitely without requiring work or residency permits. Additionally, the agreement stipulates that citizens will be entitled to essential services such as emergency and primary health care, along with access to public primary and secondary education within the capacity of the host nation. This development was agreed upon during the 49th regular meeting of CARICOM heads of government and is part of the framework outlined under the Enhanced Cooperation chapter of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas. This chapter permits groups of 3 or more member states to advance regional integration beyond the scope of the wider community when specific objectives cannot be achieved collectively. The initiative also broadens the scope of the CARICOM Single Market and Economy (CSME), fostering greater intra-regional mobility. Belize's Prime Minister John Briceño highlighted the economic benefits of the move in July, emphasizing the need for more skilled workers in the country. And that's the news. We invite you to join us for another newscast on Wednesday, September 17th here on CTV3 News and Fiesta FM 106.7. Remember that to read a text version of the news, you can visit our website at ctv3belizenews.com. You can also log on to our Facebook page for current stories at facebook.com/CTV3BelizeNews or our YouTube channel at CTV3 News BZ. From all of us here at CTV3, thank you for watching and listening. Good night.